Now we'll move on to the next story, which talks about Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency intensifying its crackdown on businesses and institutions violating environmental laws, sealing multiple establishments across Surulere, Lagos Mainland, Agege and Kosofe. The enforcement operation targets noise pollution and the illegal siting of gas refilling plants in residential areas, both of which pose serious risks to public health and safety. I'll start with noise pollution. It seems like it's a normal thing right now. So when you even say this environment is too noisy, people tend to look at you like, what are you talking about? You know, you have lounges everywhere, what they call beer parlors everywhere. You have religious houses everywhere with loudspeakers pointed in the direction of people's houses. And then you're wondering, are we God you're praying to? Why is your speaker directed to our house? You should be praying to God, not to us. You know, different people having parties and blocking the road, and it's so noisy. And when you talk, it seems like, are you an enemy of progress? The celebration ongoing. Shouldn't there be a way to carry on social activities, religious activities, without necessarily causing a disturbance to the next person? But there are agencies in charge of this. How do these people escape them? But now the government is talking about it. Is this something that will, a matter that will be hot for a while, and after some time you find that it cools down, Doc?
Well, again, we go back to the same building blocks of society. So what are our values? What do we believe in? And it is unfortunate that we have a society where people only think about themselves alone and not think about the comfort of the other person. And the way nature really wired us is that we live for others, really. But the reverse is the case in our environment, and this is why you are seeing some of all these things. And there are 1,001 reasons why this is so. You know, yesterday, while the conversation was going, and people were thinking about why is there so much corruption in the environment, and somebody said, oh, it is because there's so much poverty in the environment. And I said, I beg to disagree. Because as a child, I actually had thought that poverty was responsible for corruption. Until I see people who were poorer than we were, and they were very forthright. And this is because the system had disciplined them. Same fundamental issue that we raised, and I told you about the fundamental factor that reformation played in the Scandinavian countries and in Western Europe to transform the lives of the individuals. That religion became very impactful in those societies that created the background to what we see today. And that's why you see in some certain part of Scandinavian country, prisons houses are shut down and turned to schools because nobody is entering the prison. And this is because those institutions are emphasizing one thing: ethics, morality. So why will somebody go and plant a gas refilling in a residential place when they know the danger that can pose to the people? A simple one reason: I want to make a life. What happened to others is not my business. But you can also be the victim, as it were. What will make somebody to go and build on top of a covert and block it off, except for him and himself alone? And then by the time waters don't find their natural course, erosion comes, roads are destroyed, and it really don't concern them because government continue to waste money. And I think these are issues. Why would somebody bring out waste from their homes and dump it in the middle of the road? These are questions we have to ask ourselves. And we say, oh yes, but to have law enforcement, how many of them can we have? Do we need to recruit 200 million policemen to look after the 200 million people we have in Nigeria? So these are the questions that are begging for answers.
Let's try to answer some of them. One of them is the role of the law enforcement officers. We may not have so much of them, but we have some of them. Why do we constantly have these issues? Is it a matter of some people sleeping on their duty till it becomes a very big problem?
Well, in their website, the Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency, LASEPA, they have their phone numbers, they have their social media handles there where they feel whoever or whatever organization or whoever is constituting noise pollution in their environment can call, can send a message to them, and they can take that up and
do they respond
accordingly. So the thing is, if they've made provision for that, it will be their responsibility to, at every moment in time, enlighten the public through the arm of the local government institution. Because the local government institution, Doctor was mentioning several issues, dumping filth on the road and a whole lot of abusive disposition that the public do. Those are functions of the local government. Is it about waste management? Is it about even noise pollution? Is it about even sometimes naming of streets? Or setting up where kiosks or shops can line up and sell their products, their wares, and where not to line up? These are functions of the local government. The thing is, are the local government carrying out these functions? If yes, okay, in executing these functions, do they breach the law by citing kiosks and shops where they're not supposed to allow the people to sell there because it's going to bring in IGR into the local government, or maybe someone is doing that personally to make do with that money for personal purpose, is allowing those who operate those shops, those who, in fact, local government at the level of society is even supposed to regulate the sale of alcohol, naming of dumping of refuse. There was in Nigeria or in Lagos State where every last Saturday of the month is known as Lagos Statewide Environmental Day. That Saturday of the morning, you are not allowed to go anywhere until 10 a.m. unless, and that between 7 or 6 to 10 a.m., you're expected to clean your environment, clean the drainage, clean the gutters, and keep your environment clean. And the local government council officers and environmental protection officers are walking around inspecting the houses in the streets. And if you're found wanting, you will be fined by the local government. In fact, sometimes they enter into your compound and come to the back of the house to check the structures to make sure that they are standing properly, to make sure that even inside the compound where you live is well kept, not only the external environment. That as we speak, the only part of Lagos that does it now is the markets. Because the markets where perishable goods and non-perishable goods are sold, because of the influx of people and the activities there, they just have to make sure that every Thursday of the week they carry out such cleaning. And they are still making progress. But that of Lagos-wide environment exercise is becoming, or if not become, something of a past. We need to revive that. And LASEPA needs to take it up. Yes.
It is not only in Lagos State that this culture of environmental sanitation is dying. You find that happening in several other states. It used to be a monthly thing. And like you said, if you were found outside of your house, maybe going somewhere else when you should be observing the environmental sanitation period,
yes,
you will be fine. Then they used to arrest them. They used to have environmental officers that would arrest persons who are not observing it. But as time went on, that culture died, except in the marketplaces. And even in some marketplaces, they just while away time. Nobody actually does cleaning. You even find some of them in some areas hiding to sell. Before that 10 o'clock time, it gets to when they can open the market. Cleaning is not really happening there. Now let's come to LASEPA. I personally have called and even sent messages on an issue concerning noise pollution. Do you know what they asked me to do? provide them with audio and video evidence. And then I was wondering, what is your job in the office? If I have called you and given you certain details, do I now need to go further by providing you all the evidence while you sit in your office and do what exactly? So we're talking about whistleblower policies here, and you're asking for certain details that does not even protect the person, and you're further demanding that the person goes ahead to do your duty. So these are the issues. You are just an agency sitting down there, not doing anything. People are even calling your attention to things, and you're asking them to go further by sending you evidence. To do what? So at the end of the day, are you even going to take steps on the evidence when you cannot even respond to calls and messages? So that's how situations like this happen. And people find that nothing happens to those who are breaching the environmental laws. More people get into the habit. Before, if you are citing a lounge or a bar or a club, there are certain rules that you must obey. You must ensure that you are doing it within a place where it's enclosed, so the noise from your premise doesn't get out. There's a certain level the noise needs to get to. It should not exceed that. Who obeys that law anymore?
Yeah,
it happens and nothing is being done, except in certain areas of the city, certain areas of Lagos State where they are now going about. Maybe because those who are there have pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed hard enough, very hard enough. But do we need to be a push and start society where you have people who need to push to the extent where you have to now begin to exert certain influence, and based on the influence of those who are calling for your attention, you move? But if you don't have people who are pushing to that level, you don't do anything. Now, how do you allow situations to degenerate to a certain level before you begin to act? And even this acting doesn't look like what will be sustainable. So it looks a lot like a lot of people sleep on their duties. So I don't think that should be the case. If we have a ministry for environment or a ministry in charge of environmental protection, they should be up and doing. There should be sensitization. Some persons don't even know that some of these things can be reported. Before you have one gas plant sited in one area and you have many of them, it becomes a culture, it becomes a norm. It started someday. It started one day. What is the local government and those around doing? So people just turn a blind eye on things until it becomes a menace. That's when we wake up, we now want to start tackling the issue.
But it's well stated. One of the issues that I want to take up was that during those days, you have the environmental sanitation. People just sleep up to 10 o'clock and then they go out of their house. And that, of course, has defeated the purpose of the law. They call it the Nehemiah principle. Everybody was to clean their front gate, and then the entire society become clean. Now, that's not done. Even up to today in Lagos, Thursday is environmental sanitation for markets. Every Thursday. Now, what do you see? People sleep because shops open at 10. And they sleep from morning, and by 9 o'clock, they leave their houses and they are going back to the business. And the places are not clean. And this is what you are dealing with as a person. Now, I don't know how government is going to regulate that, to go and carry people from their house to come to their business places to clean the environment. Now, these are the issues. And if government decide to fine, then of course we have a way of crying against and say, oh, it's harassment. Government is insensitive. They are adding to the problem of the people. We have a way of blackmailing those who are in authority, and that is very clean and it's simple. Yet, but again, you also have to be wary as an institution that, okay, you're actually reporting that there's a noise pollution somewhere. Probably the time these guys are going to come, maybe it's a vigil. You actually need to be in your environment to, for example, take an audio record. What that helps also do is that the agencies that are coming are not going to be acting in ignorance and say, yes, somebody sent in this, and this is what happened. And then they can come and investigate the environment to see that there's actually pollution. Because also, one of the issues yesterday that the ICPC mentioned was the fact that immediately that executive order of the whistleblower was given, by the Buhari administration, that even himself had whistle blown against him for people who were wanting to make claim. It's not as anything happened. They just, and if you remember, a lot of people actually were jailed for blowing the wrong whistle, for where things didn't happen. And they cooked up stories because they were thinking that if you just cook up that story, you can claim money from government. So these are the things that even make some of the law enforcement really very tedious in our environment. And that is why my own way of looking at some of all this issue is the fact that righteousness exalts a nation. They say cleanliness is next to godliness. Yeah, but we have very religious society, but we are so unclean. And you remember that Patrick O'Kay made this remark when we're talking about the radio and the environment, and he said even cleaning around the environment is a task that is given to us, because not even for government, it's for our health, so that people don't take cholera, people don't get typhoid and malaria. It's for our good. It's not doing government any good. And I don't even think government should even be spending money enforcing those kind of rules. That's something that you need to do for your own personal good, and you're expecting somebody to come and enforce a law for that. And I think these are things that society needs to do. But like somebody said, how are we educating our young ones in our primary schools, what their obligations are to government? That is not just an examined course or subject, but an internalized value that children come out from school with, that they understand that they have a responsibility to keep their environment clean, they have a responsibility to obey the laws of society. And once this is inculcated in them at elementary, they grow up with it. And like I said, if you are able to inculcate this discipline on a child, when they grow up, it doesn't leave them.
I know that a lot of persons would want to, those who live in Lagos or those who even live outside of Lagos, wish to live in Banana Island. But it's better to live in Banana Island than live in Banana Republic. So we can choose which we want it to be. A society that is sane, an environment where people can even think. People can hear themselves when they talk, rather than shouting at the top of their voices, because the noise in the environment is too much. Now, we don't need to get too religious to the extent where we don't care about the next neighbor. We can do things decently and still carry on our activities in the way that it should be. Cleanliness, they say, is next to godliness. Some of the diseases that we spend money treating can be prevented if we live within a clean environment. Now, when you live with filth, you are calling for rodents, you are calling for pests. And these rodents and pests sometimes will find a way to where you keep your food. So it's a lot of service to yourself, for yourself, when you keep your environment clean and when you consider your neighbor. Because that neighbor that you're probably disturbing with noise might find a way of also retaliating by in his own way. And so it becomes a very noisy environment. For the authorities, we ask that you do more to check a lot of these abnormalities that we find in society. Banana Island is still better than Banana Republic, and Banana Republic is not something that it's not a place that anyone can enjoy. By that I mean a lawless society, a chaotic society. You and I will not enjoy it. But I know you've enjoyed news analysis today on the front burners.